Hello, my name is Drew, and I'm the Aspiring Master, and welcome to the Aspiring Master Presents. This is a show where we talk about the meanings, misunderstandings, and insights about the important words we use and misuse on a daily basis. Really understanding what we're truly meaning when we talk allows us to convey and explain ourselves better to others. This not only allows a clearer communication so we can get what we need quicker and with less stress, but also helps us understand ourselves in more depth than we thought possible. Today on our show, we have our special guest, Therese Wilson, who, like myself, is a practitioner, instructor, and advocate for personal growth and cooperative awareness. Together, our experience amounts to well over 50 years of personal growth study and experience, and we wish to share with you some of the insights and understandings that we've discovered along the way that we think can help make all our lives easier and less stressful through a better understanding of what we may be unconsciously saying. Today on the show, we're going to talk about lying.
All right, let's get into it, and let's look at the Merriam-Webster definition of a lie. So we're going to go that first. And so the definition of a lie is to make an untrue statement with the intent to deceive or to create a false or misleading impression. So there's a lot of room in that statement.
Yeah. Which means that what we were talking about before we came on, it absolutely fits into the statement. I said, I didn't put on makeup today, but isn't makeup a lie?
Well, and yeah, just to start things off right there, one of the things that I say often about lying is I said from pretty much the minute we wake up to pretty much the time we go to bed, we're lying in one respect or another. And when I'm saying lying, and I know people have this big outblown definition of lie, like as in because we were taught as children, lies are bad, right? So we're talking about this program and we're saying, oh, well, makeup is a lie. And I'm sure that somebody would get their tail up in a knot when we say that. But why do you say that why would you think that makeup is a lie?
Well, because it's covering up who I really am. It's making an impression of my beauty or lack thereof that isn't true. I like to say that I put on makeup just enough to make me look awake, but as I get older, I know I put on a little more. So it's deceiving.
Well, yeah, and I think that's where we get we fall short on our idea of lie because there's so much bad press on what lying is.
Yeah.
Right. So since we were kids, go ahead.
And I'm going to enhance that just a little bit because I really don't see anything wrong with makeup.
Right.
Truthfully, I just didn't have the time or the inclination to do it today. And I'm sorry, but sometimes makeup, you don't know who that person is without the makeup.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a lie.
Right.
Because let's face it, and it kind of compounds lie upon lie, but too many people, and this is another topic, but love and everything else, too many people only go on the physical love part. And so they're not looking at someone for the beauty within or their beautiful personality. They're looking at this. And that, if it's all full of makeup and you don't look the same when the makeup's off, is a lie. Yeah.
Oh, no, absolutely. We do things to deceive all the time. I suppose, if I didn't need glasses, so let's take a look. Do you think I'm smarter without glasses or with glasses? Right? Like, do I look smarter this way, or do I look smarter this way?
Well, the perception is probably with glasses. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if the perception is with glasses, and say I didn't need glasses, but I wanted to look smart on YouTube, right?
You put on some.
I'll just throw on some glasses, which means that those glasses, in a sense, are a lie.
A prop.
Right. Well, and I'm deceiving you to make you see me differently, and I think
you're not deceiving me. You're manipulating me.
Yeah. Well, but it's still deceiving.
Yeah.
Yeah. Deceiving can get into manipulation, right? And but the same thing happens with makeup, right? Like, I mean, if you're saying, now part of it is a self-esteem thing, right? For yourself. You look in the mirror and you go, I'm looking old, or I'm looking, I've got the bags under my eyes, or I've got all of those things. And so I do some touch-ups so that I don't look that way. But when we get down to the bottom line of why we do that to please everybody else. Because if it didn't matter, right? If society was okay with bags under your eyes, you wouldn't do it.
And that takes me to the lie that makes other people comfortable.
Right.
For instance, I'm going to be coughing, and when I cough around people, my immediate impulse is to and say sorry. Yeah. I'm not really sorry, but it makes the other person comfortable.
Right. Well, I mean, I switched sorry a lot of the times, and being a Canadian, we say sorry probably per capita more than any country in the world, right? We are the sorriest people out there, and I'm not talking in a bad way. Right?
Yeah, I understand.
We're very polite and we're very sorry. Now, I've replaced in my vocabulary to I apologize, right?
Yeah.
Which is
still a lie, because I'm coughing because I'm coughing. Mm-hmm. You know, I shouldn't have to apologize or to make other people feel more comfortable with my coughing. So it's still a deception because I am not being honest.
Right. Well, actually, you know what? I have to say, when I look at the way that when you talk about that and I say, okay, what is my feeling when I say I apologize? Well, the truth is I honestly care about other people. And I honestly care about what they perceive. I honestly understand that people do get disturbed by things that happen around them. Now, I'm not taking responsibility for the fact that I cough, but I do internally go, I am honestly, as an honest expression, I apologize for that because I know that it allows them to facilitate.
Yeah, I'm sorry I'm making you uncomfortable. I don't.
But let's look at the deception part of that though, right? Let's go to yours, because really, when you get right down to the bottom line, you're only saying that because you think they might be uncomfortable.
Yeah. Right. No. I think if you go even further than that, if I don't make them comfortable again and I'm completely making them uncomfortable, then they're going to shun me. They're going to push me away. So.
Exactly. Which brings us to the bottom line of the lie. The lie isn't for us, but it's for them so that we don't get shunned.
Yeah.
Right.
So it is for us.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, eventually it is. But we start that way. We start down that road. So we put on makeup, right? We put on makeup because as a guy that's 51 years old, I'm probably not going to get that job that young energetic guy's going to get. Well, so therefore, I'm going to color my beard and make myself look like I'm in my 30s, right? Mm-hmm. Or early 40s instead of being 50, like over the hill. So I'm going to deceive you by coloring my beard. I'm going to deceive you by wearing fancy clothes that really accentuate and take away from the fact that I've got a little bit of a pot belly. And you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so all of those are deceptions to be able to manipulate you to get me what I want, right?
Yeah. And this might be the wrong place to insert it, but every lie, I was actually thinking about it, mm-hmm. It seems to me, large or small, is at its base not being willing to accept the consequences of telling the truth.
Yeah, I know, I agree. So
which means we have to discuss truth a little bit here too.
Well, of course. Yeah. Well, but okay, not telling the truth, but truth is also a subjective thing. So how about not saying your understanding of truth at the time, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I like that.
Right.
Because no matter what people say, I think maybe the only absolute truth is that there's no absolute truth.
Yeah. So So in this, like, as with anything, and again, we can't, we got to wrestle with good and bad here too, right?
Well, do we?
Yeah, because some people will say, well, lying is good, right? Or lying can be for a good cause, or lying can be.
Okay, then that's where, given my idea, given what I want to achieve, given my idea of the world, given the parameters of who I am, if you substitute, does this work or doesn't this work for good or bad, it changes things.
Yeah. Well, and again, but it also makes you have to realize what your aim is. And it's a consciousness thing, right? Mm-hmm. Or an awareness thing. What am I trying to do here?
Yeah.
Right? You have to know that.
What am I trying to achieve? Who am I trying to be? Who
exactly.
am I looking on being? Yeah.
Well, and here's where us as human beings lie all the time to ourselves. And I'm going to get into a lot of the self-deception that we do, because it's through, whether it's lack of awareness or lack of consciousness, we would call it, we tend to lie to ourselves all the time.
And the first step of truth-telling is telling the truth to yourself about yourself. And on first blush, that, of course I tell the truth to myself. And then you go, oh, hell no, I don't tell the truth about myself to myself. Because we really can divert we start rationalizing. We start with all of the other things. Of course, rationalizing is just another form of lying as well, perhaps. But we do everything we can to not accept what's in front of us and what's in us. Mm-hmm. And telling the truth to yourself is kind of difficult sometimes.
Well, and again, you have to define what for yourself, what truth or correctness is about yourself. Like, I mean, I can say, okay, well, let's take a look at the show that we're on right now. The show that we're on right now, why are we producing this? Right? Or why am I here doing this? What is my bottom line? Am I going to lie and say, well, this is for the public? Well, it is. That's part of it. But most of it is self-expression for me, right? The impetus for me to do this is to say, I've got all of this wonderful information, a way of looking at life that is longing for expression. Right? Expression. And there's even some recognition involved in this. I like being recognized. There's a lot of ego, right? So when I'm being honest about the show is, yes, I want this information out there. But there's a lot more truths underneath that have motivated to get to this space.
Yeah. And if you lie to yourself about those things, then you've tainted it anyway. If you know who you are and why you're doing it, and you know that it's multi-layered, then you can move away from the strictly ego part of it. Mm-hmm. If you don't tell the truth to yourself, then you're likely to just end up all in ego and risk one or two things, either getting overinflated in that ego or crushed in that ego.
Right. We started talking about makeup, right? And I say the clothes we wear a lot of the time, right? And even though I know that the clothes we wear are self-expressions, right? We want to express ourselves in a certain way.
There's no question. I wear a certain kind of shirt because it makes me look a little slimmer and hides my little belly too. And there's no question that, some men wear lifts in their shoes to make them look taller because that's more societally acceptable, and some women wear the super high heels, and it's all
it's the comb over, it's the
so many things, and I'm not sure all of it would really come under the category of lie, because we are still biologic animals, and we're still doing exactly what the peacock does when he does his tail open, and in the mating ritual, almost every man going around doing something.
I agree, I still think it's on a level of deception.
Well, I'm going to say that at its root, it was something that was natural. But of course, our paradigm, our male paradigm, switched it. It used to be the male. In most of nature, it is the male trying to attract the female, and it was for reproductive purposes. Just plain and simple. It had nothing to do with love. Well, when it became something to do with love, then somehow it got, of course, it wasn't always love either, but it somehow got switched. But so it isn't all a lie. It is rooted in hormones and stuff. But when we became more and more self-aware, we bastardized it.
Well, and I think that too, that being aware of ourselves and being as smart a people as we are, right? We have the capability of moving past our primal stuff, right?
Yeah, and into self-expression.
Yeah, into something completely different. And
just because it's a lie doesn't mean it's not also something else. It is self-expression, no question.
Well, now I want to examine the different types of lying that we do. There's some really subtle stuff and there's some really blatant stuff, because when somebody says, "Oh, you're a liar," that feels like a big negative thing when somebody says that. So when we're talking, I can understand that when I say lie, like makeup is a lie or this is a lie or that's a lie, these little things, it would tend to trigger people, right? Because we've got such a bad reputation about lying. And it strikes me as actually quite funny, because we lie pretty much constantly as people. Like, we get up in the morning and it's just like, I'm awake. You know, you're not. Or you know how you get on the phone? You know, it's just like, oh, did I catch you sleeping? No, I'm fine. I'm awake. Right? And you totally know by the sound of their voice that you just knocked them out of a nap or something, right? So there's those little lies that we start to do in the morning. The eye drops so that our eyes aren't red because we didn't have enough sleep last night. Just like from minute to minute, I can think of like tons of little ones. But then there's the lies that we tell people to spare their feelings. We tell people so that we don't get into confrontations, right? Because confrontation is a big one. We don't want to deal with, like you were saying earlier, we don't want to deal with the consequences of the truth, right?
Yeah.
And the lies that the big lies that we tell that are specifically designed to manipulate people in a big way to get something out of them. That's whether I'm stealing something or, you know what I'm saying? Those big, huge lies.
There's a lot in politics right now.
Of course, yeah. Well, I mean, politics is a mastery of lying, and it's a mastery of bait and switch, really, which is a lie. And just like magic tricks are a lie, right? They're not the truth. They're made to believe for you to believe that. So we look at those, but what you're saying about politics, which is. I just have to do a side note here on this, because I watch how they don't answer questions. You know, when politicians don't answer a question, or they answer by pointing out something different, right? Like they switch your attention to something else, right? So they don't say anything about the question, but they go, well, you know, that's the blah, 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 and this is that, and that's...
And then move to a trigger, yeah.
So, but that is them trying not to what we would consider outright lie. Okay? So to tell an untruth. Right? Yet, in accordance to the definition from the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, they are lying with the intent to deceive.
Yeah.
Right?
They don't see it that way.
So, of course not. But you know, clinically, they are lying. But here's where we get into that differentiation that people have about that word. If I'm just not telling all the truth, which will make you believe a certain thing, then I am not lying, right?
Well, maybe we have to go to if it's good for me, if it's good for you to lie to you and doesn't do me harm or you harm, then it's an okay lie.
Right.
If my lie or deception harms you in any way, then it doesn't work.
Right.
The first one works because, what's the harm of telling someone that they look good in pink when they don't? What's the harm?
Well, I mean, I can answer that.
Say what?
The harm could be, right? Like, I mean, I've thought deep and hard about a lot of this and how we deceive and what the consequences of that could be. And I'm going to give you an example. I'm a DJ karaoke host, and I was at a karaoke show, and a guy came up to me and he said, he gave me his request form, and he was going to sing "My Way" by Frank Sinatra. Now, it's a very popular song people sing, and so he said, "Oh, you're going to be absolutely astounded by me. I sound exactly like Frank Sinatra." And this guy believed it. Like there was no question in my mind. I'm like, "Oh, that's great. It's nice to hear somebody that really can belt out this song," because I've heard many of them not be able to belt out this song. Now, so it's my job to lie to you and tell you that you're a good singer at the end of this, right? That's part of my job because I want you to come back and buy alcohol from this place so that I can get paid, right? Like, I mean, that's the truth behind karaoke, guys. This is how it works. So he gets up there. I'm really excited because it's nice to have somebody good sing. And the guy sang off key and he was horrible. Like, I mean, he was probably one of the worst Frank Sinatra. Now, be that as it may, I can come out and I can say, listen, like if he asked me, because he didn't ask me at the end of it. So if he had asked me, and I would have actually politically said,
maybe
you could use some improvement on your notes up here, is what I would generally say.
It was a bad day.
Right. But here's the product of people telling him how good he is.
Then and he's going to be one of these ones who gets on American
Idol
or something and gets made fun
trashed,
of.
Right.
It breaks my heart,
Right. But again, what are the long-term implications of what these people have done for this person, right? He thinks that he is the best singer in the entire universe. And nobody's told him not, because we live in a placating society, right? We live in a society of the participation ribbon. And unfortunately, the long-term effects of that are really kind of detrimental. And so when I tell somebody...
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so when I tell somebody that you look good in a pink dress, which I generally don't, rather unfortunately for the people around me, because it does hurt their feelings when I say that, I said that's not the most flattering color to me of you wearing, because it doesn't match your skin tone or whatever. If you ask me, ask and ye shall receive. But generally, we don't do that. We say, "Oh, you look great," even though you might look fabulously bad. Right?
I don't do that. I usually do more like you do, or I will simply say, "It's not my favorite on you, but do you like it?"
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the political question. Do you like it?
Do you?
That's
like
me avoiding saying anything at all.
Because my opinion really doesn't matter. Do you like it?
Yeah. Well, and that's definitely another technique that I use to get around difficult. And when I say difficult,
so it's not telling the truth, a lie.
Exactly. Well, it is, and it absolutely is. I mean, we don't. There was a movie out there, and I can't even remember what the movie was, and I haven't seen it. I've just heard about it, but about a world where everybody told the truth to everybody, right? Mm-hmm. That was it. It was like totally no, and this one guy discovered how to lie to get what he wanted, right? And it's so I definitely want to watch it because it is the reverse of what we're talking about.
If you find it, let me know.
Yeah, I will. I'll definitely Google it and I'll let you know. But is it really harmful to tell like what we would call it was just a white lie? Right?
Yeah, I get what the problem with all of this, of course, it's all mental exercise. But unless we live in a world where people's egos are not so fragile that they can accept real truth, we're going to have to be perceptive enough to know either ourselves, what we're willing to say or do or accept,
Mm-hmm.
on other people's, or we're just going to be shattering people all around us.
Well, and I mean, and again, here's the difficulty about honesty and not lying in our society, especially because it is so incredibly prevalent. Like I said, we start lying as soon as we get up, we finish lying when we go to sleep, and I'm sure that in our dreams we lie as well. But
How are you so sure about that?
I'm just kidding. I just had to put it in there.
What I'm really talking about is when we are lying because people are not willing to accept truth and not take offense. And when we work on ourselves, and not only that, with our children, to be able to say, to be able to accept the truth and not take offense. Because when we take offense, other people feel smaller. And I don't care who you are, especially as a kid, because I remember this growing up. Every time I admitted something or every time I really wanted to tell the truth, I got in trouble.
So let's look at the root of this. Like, where does it come from? Why do we lie all the time? Why are we putting on makeup? Why am I a YouTuber that's putting on glasses to look smarter? No, I'm just kidding. I really do need these. Why do we do these things when...
It makes life smoother.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. When we were kids, and here's why we have such a bad stigma of the word lie. Here's what our parents said. You should always tell the truth. Lying is bad. And as a child, lying is bad really hits us right in the heart because our parents reiterate this. Not only that, if we're caught out in just a little lie, they freak out on us, right? They just, like, I mean, okay, they don't all do this. I'm overgeneralizing here. I know that my parents did. If I was caught out in a little teensy lie, it was this big blown out thing. You should always tell the truth. I got punished, all of that stuff. Now, okay, great. So when I knocked that vase over of my mom's, that is her most prized possession that was passed down from her grandma's while I'm playing in the living room, right? I knocked that vase over and it smashes, okay? And my mom comes home and I say, I was playing in the living room and I knocked your favorite vase over and oh boy, am I in trouble. Spanked, going to bed without supper, all of this stuff. All of this stuff that I did by telling the truth. I got this huge emotional backlash. Now, part of it is, of course, knowing now, is that that meant so much to her that that loss made her that much more angry and susceptible to punish, right? Mm-hmm. But so I've got this backlash, and not only that, it's brought up whenever it's like if they catch me playing in the living room, right? At all, you'd better go outside because you might break something. Right?
It's still brought up at family gatherings.
Yeah, and brought up at family gatherings, and it's relived. So now, same scenario. I'm playing in the living room. I knock that vase over. Oh my goodness. So then in my mind, as a child, I go, I know that I'm going to get into tremendous amounts of trouble if I tell the truth. So what am I going to do? I accidentally bumped into it. I tripped. I don't know what happened. All of those things. That and the fact that later, if I get caught out in that lie way later, there's way less of an emotional charge on it than I would have had telling the truth at that point.
Well, then that's the lie too.
Yeah.
Because the emotional charge was how you punished yourself with the fear and the waiting for the retaliation and the discovery. So, you know.
Well, and yeah, and there is those things too. But what I was getting at was,
You know,
on the level of teaching, that alone teaches us
you better lie. Yeah.
that telling the truth is not a good thing.
Yeah.
You get punished. If I got rewarded for telling the truth, like seriously, if somebody said, "You're telling the truth, I'm really upset about it, and I can't talk about it right now," right? Because I'm upset about the loss. I really appreciate you telling the truth. I'll chat with you about it later. And then later you go, "You know what? Really, thank you for telling me the truth. You know, here's a cookie," or it's that reinforcement says that truth is good. Now, so all of my experience as a child was that truth was bad.
Yeah.
Even
Let's lie.
all the while the adults were telling us that we shouldn't lie, while we watched our parents lie all the time.
Yeah.
To each other, to their neighbors, to the evidence was all there. And here's my and I'm going to let you talk in a sec. Here's a big bugbear on this one. And I had a really, really heated conversation with a guy about this, one of my friends, when I said, because we were talking about lying and talking about children. I said, no, parents should always tell their children the truth. He's like, whoa, no, you can't do that. You know, I said, why can't you do that? And he goes, well, you can't, burden your kids with, adult stuff. And I said, I'm not saying about burdening kids with adult stuff. I'm saying just tell them the truth. I said, here's the most confusing thing and why we don't trust ourselves as we grow up. The biggest one that I've found is mommy's crying in the living room. I come up to her as a 5-year-old boy and I say, "Mommy, what's wrong? Are you okay?" "Oh, nothing's wrong, son. It's fine. Nothing's wrong." In that moment, my instinct says that there's something wrong. My authority figure says there is nothing wrong. Now, my authority figure is a lot older and a lot smarter than me. So I take my authority figure's word on the fact that nothing was wrong. All through my life, I start doubting my perception of other people because of this, right? Because I don't trust my intuition anymore.
Yeah.
Because my parents told me not to. But the lie, that's a long-term consequence. That's part of what we're saying about the not telling the lady that she looks bad in her jeans, right?
In her pink, yeah.
Yeah, in her pink jeans. I said jeans, whatever.
I used to have pink jeans.
So in that situation, I'm telling my buddy, I said, no, I'm not telling you that you have to burden your child with, oh, my husband just, or your daddy just, or, you don't involve them in that. But you confirm that there is something wrong. You say, and here's the best way to deal with it, is you say, yes, there's something wrong. And I am upset. But I know how to deal with this, and this is just an expression of being upset, honey.
Yeah.
And I really thank you for wanting to help me. But I can deal with this on my own, and I'll be right as rain soon. You go out and play.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I got into trouble even in my generation and my mother was pretty much like this, not always, but I did learn a lot from her regarding this. If my children asked me a question, if they came up with that kind of thing, or it's not about telling them the whole truth, if you will. Like you said, don't burden them with everything. Mm-hmm. Everything age appropriate, mm-hmm. but I did my best to answer everything age appropriately. Mm-hmm. My daughter asked me, where do babies come from in the middle of a grocery store, that mm-hmm. kind of thing. And I just said, sweetie, when we get home, then we'll talk about it. And I gave a basic mm-hmm. knowledge, even though she was 6 years old.
Right.
And even if it's about sex, I gave proper terms for the body and everything. Because if you don't tell the truth, even about biology and sex, then you are laying the groundwork for dysfunction later on in life, no question. if my daughters came up to me and saw me crying, which was something I wasn't very good at, I
You
would
had to practice a lot, right? Yeah.
Well, no, I wish I had practiced a lot. And I'll get into that for a second. You just remind me of something.
Sure.
I absolutely would have just said, I'm angry about something or I'm upset about something. My children, and I'm not saying that I was perfect and that I did all this perfectly, but most of the time I would, with kids, most of the time, when they're lying. It is just that simple. You're just asking them to confirm it for you, and so you get them in the habit of telling the truth. And I always said the same thing. If you tell me the truth, you will likely get in trouble. There will be consequences. When I use the word consequences for lying, but if you or for doing what you did. But if you lie, then you are in trouble. You are really in trouble. There is a difference. But holding things in is perhaps, for me, it was perhaps a lie that I didn't understand was really lying too. Not sharing who I am. Because years and years later, not that long ago, my daughter was crying on the phone, and we had the conversation about crying, and it turned out that she didn't think she had permission to cry because she didn't see me crying.
Exactly.
And so she thought that and she has had a lot of reason to cry over her lifetime, and she felt diminished because she was judging herself against me. That was a lie of omission, I would think, because I was not being honest about my feelings.
Right. Well, I mean, I remember my mom asked me later on in her life, she said, what was the one thing that I could have done to help you with your life as you were growing, when you were younger? And I said, show affection to my stepdad, right? Because what happened was she separated her, like she had a weird relationship. I mean, my stepdad had like 5 wives, so it was a interesting polygamous thing, which, by the way, I would never ever suggest anybody do. Way too much work. But when my stepdad would be in the house or anything, they weren't really affectionate with each other at all. And nor if she brought a boyfriend home or anything like that. There was no affection being shown. And, they kept their affection for the bedroom. They didn't demonstrate it to us. And I said, that, among all of the things in life, would have helped me more, because I didn't know how to be affectionate later on. I didn't know what that looked like. I had a vague notion of that. And not only that, my mom wasn't really demonstrable on a love level either, where she didn't touch me a lot, right? Like I didn't get touched, and I'm a very kinesthetic person, and I like being touched. And so those combined, no demonstration of that was a big thing. Yeah. So on a level, she lied to us by keeping that from us. And not only that, I mean, here's where we get into, and we're talking about the origins of why we start to lie. First off, our parents taught us that lying is good and telling the truth is bad, not by their mouthed words, but by the demonstration of who they were and what they were. They lied all the time. I've seen parents ask children to lie to their neighbors so that they look good. It's a really, really interesting society where we need to present ourselves as not weak. But it's like, remember, the patriarch is, like the head of the household. You must respect me. There's a lot of that stuff going on in our society that says you must fear your parents to some degree. And in that fear, and when we're fearful about something, we start to deceive. well, I mean, it's no different than in this society. If you are a different sexual orientation, right? If you have a different view of yourself sexually than your parents, that we start to lie immediately, or than society is more willing to handle, right?
Yeah.
In this day and age, we've got a lot more tolerance, and I say tolerance because we don't have patience yet around this, but a lot more tolerance of transgender and gay people.
We don't have acceptance.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Patience isn't the word you should have used.
Yeah, well, it isn't, because we tolerate that. And so when we're tolerating something, and I'm going to make a distinction here. When we tolerate something, we don't like it, but we'll put up with it, right? When we're patient with something, we totally accept it. So what we're saying is exactly the same thing.
No.
Yeah?
No.
Okay, so let's go into this. I like this.
I can be patient with something and someone and completely disagree and think that you're awful. We can tolerance and patience do not necessarily connote acceptance.
Right. Well, in my experience of myself, when I'm truly patient, when something does not shoot an emotional charge with me, right? That's to me that's patience, right? It doesn't have an emotional charge.
Look at any good customer service rep,
mm-hmm.
and they are very, very patient.
Mm-hmm.
But all they are doing is tolerating. They are not accepting the behavior of that mm-hmm. person across the aisle.
Which is what I'm saying is, like, then it's really tolerance. It's not really patient.
Yeah, but either way,
mm-hmm.
you can be very patient with them and think that they're just the biggest creeps, Or you can be looking across it, and in your mind, every racial slur, every
mm-hmm.
ethnic slur, whatever is going through your head, but you can be very, very patient. It has mm-hmm. nothing to do with, but that's because that's self-preservation. That's that lie.
Mm-hmm.
I will lose my job if I express what I'm thinking here.
Right.
But my job says I have to be patient with you. But that does not mean that you have any tolerance for that person across the aisle. I mean any acceptance of that person across that counter from you.
Right. Well, and you're right. In the actual clinical definition of patience, you are correct. I differentiate between the two because I on an internal level, I know that if I've got a complaint about something, I'm just tolerating it, and if I don't, then I'm very patient with it. And that's a difference in
started out with Merriam-Webster, so I'm just going with what.
Oh no, I agree. I agree that's in my estimation and in my view, it's a different differentiation of feeling.
Drew, I'm just tolerating you right now.
Yeah, I know you are. I know you're tolerating my definition of patience. I can tell.
You will think about it later and know that I am right.
Well, it's okay. You're allowed to be.
Or not.
Okay, so back onto the lying scale. So we know that we're taught, actually, we're taught by our television shows. We're taught by, because really, go take a look at your favorite television show and look at how many times these people lie to each other, right? All throughout the show. Now, at the end, a lot of the times these shows will do a moral statement.
A moral story, yeah.
Yeah, here's a moral statement. If you lie, this is what happens, and all of that stuff. But there's lots of little lies, little subtle lies all the way through these shows. And they don't even do the moral statements anymore. That was the 80s, right? 80s and 90s had those moral statements. They don't even do the moral statements anymore. They
kind of do. The good guy usually wins, if you will.
Well, yeah, that's true. The good guy, but the good guy just lied to get all the way to where he is, right?
And the good guy, if you watch the cop shows and stuff, and I actually do watch some of them, mm-hmm. The good guys have righteously killed about 5 people somewhere along the line,
Yeah. And justified it. And again, we go into justifications being lies, generally. I mean, if I need to justify something, if it's not intrinsically already apparent.
Yeah. And actually, one of them does occasionally have some soul searching and going, am I just as bad as them? but they were going to kill you. Yeah, but, you know.
Well,
But
yeah, and I mean,
so there is sometimes, but I
So-
get what you're saying. Yeah, justification is a lie. It
Right.
moves us away, moves us into our comfortable zone of truth, not necessarily a provable truth, but our comfort zone of truth.
so now the question begs to ask, you know, we talk about white lies. So what are white lies, right? What are the consequences of those? That white lie of me saying, oh, no, you look great. And now that may not be the truth. I can say you look great, but I don't think those pants flatter you, right? Right? So there is that. What are the long-term consequences of all the lies that we're doing? Because I think that this buys into fear, anger.
Well, yeah, and that's where the highly evolved beings supposedly, tell the truth about everything all the time, and they don't, but until then, we rely on others to help us with our perception of ourselves. Unfortunately,
Right.
we fill ourselves from outward in, and if we were fully aware inwardly and don't really care about the outwardly, in a sense that we still love and everything, but we don't get emotionally egocentrically hurt, then we would tell far fewer lies, if any lies at all. But we're certainly not at that place. We do rely on from the outside, our self-image, beginning with our parents. We have no way. And so let's begin with parenting. I think teaching the young is probably primary to changing any of it. But in order to do that, it's kind of a progression thing, because I hope that I was a better parent than my mother, but I hope that my daughters are a better parent than I was. And until we can teach have parents who can teach these children, because maybe we need parenting classes for real men. Maybe that's a role for government. Teach them how to be good parents. But until we can do that, then we're just going to have to
continue lying.
Wing it. Keep
Well,
lie less, but maybe more delicately, more consciously.
Well, I think that you bring up a really, really good point here. We're like the bottom line is we're lying because we want to feel acceptable and accepted. We want to be part of a community, and this comes back into a lot of our talks of being connected, right? We lie about ourselves. We put on the makeup. We put on the clothes. We tell white lies to not have anybody blow up at us because we want to be acceptable and accepted.
Yeah, not just not get yelled at, but we lie because we think that's how someone will love us.
Right. Well, I remember a story about my stepdaughter, and she was, I think, 13, and she wanted to get a nose piercing, right? And we went for a long walk and talk about it because, I mean, this is something that her mother at the time would never have. She would have immediately and unequivocally said, no, you can't do that. You're not blah, 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 right? And talk down to her. And I just went, I want to circumvent this. I want to find out the reasons why she wants this, right? What are the real reasons behind it? So we went out for this long walk, and I said, so why would you all of a sudden want to get a nose piercing? I said, well, I just think it's cool and, awesome and da-da-da-da-da. And I said, like, okay, but why do you think that? And I'm very matter of fact when I'm talking to her about this. And I just like, why would you think that? Like, what would prompt you to do this? Why did you even see it? Like, how did it come to be? And she says, oh, this girl came to school and she's, 13 years old and she's got a nose piercing and it's bright and it's shiny. And I'm like, oh, that's great. I understand that. And I said, but, like you got to pierce the skin and they put a needle in there and you got to go through the pain and all of that stuff. And I said, why not? Let's get a little magnet thing and just stick it in your nose, and you can have it so that it looks like you've had a piercing. Oh, no, that wouldn't. It's like, oh, so it's not just about the looks, right? She went, oh, and she's a smart kid. So she thought about it, and she said, oh, no. And I said, so what is the real reason? She says, well, everybody likes her, right? Everybody gives her this attention, and she gets to tell us how big the needle is, and she gets to, she went through this pain, but she's the center of attention.
Center of attention, yeah.
No. And I said, well, that sounds like a real reason why you would want this, is you want that. And I said, but is that really who you are? That you would want to go out of your way so that you can get that kind of attention, even though those people don't really care about you. They care about your story.
How long do you think that attention's going to last?
Yeah. They don't really care about you, but they care about your story. They care about what you can do. Oh, look at what your parents, your parents are so cool. You know what I'm saying? And so we talked about it, and we talked about it, and we talked about it. And I said, listen, long term, you might not want to have that thing in your nose forever, right? And once you have that hole pierced in your nose, well, you got a hole pierced in your nose because it's like, it's partly cartilage, and and you may have to, and all of the stuff that you have to do to be able to maintain it. And I said, I know that you can't even look after a turtle, right? Let alone do this. And I said, listen, and I'm cool with you. And I said, at this age, I don't want you to make those life decisions for yourself, right? And I'm the adult, and then we have to do this. But you have to understand why you're making those choices, and be okay with it. And so we talked down about it, and she finally came to her own conclusion of, no, I don't want friends like that. Really. Not really, honestly. But understanding the lie that we tell ourselves at that point, I pat myself on the back a little bit for this, because it was trying to get her to acknowledge and understand what was real.
Yeah.
And also care about her opinion about it, because I do, right? I absolutely cared. But you're lying to yourself if you're not telling yourself that I'm doing this so that I can get more people to like me.
Right.
But fundamentally, and this is your point, fundamentally, she felt unlikable. And that is our core to this whole lying business.
Yeah, and I understand that, unlike any other creature that we're aware of anyway, there are a few apes and whatever, but very few. But our whole identity is created in a social setting. Mm-hmm. We do have to, on some level, care about what other people think about us. The problem is, though, that the conundrum is, ultimately, we have to care about what we think about ourselves. Mm-hmm. And that gets to you can't keep lying to yourself. Why am I doing this? Well, I'm getting my nose pierced because I want someone to like me. Mm-hmm. Why don't you like yourself well enough to not care about that person or that situation filling you in some way? Mm-hmm. And that's a hard distinction to make. Mm-hmm. And again, there's no one teaching us to value other people's opinions, but value our own more. Mm-hmm. Our society, we're beginning to, but as a whole, we have no way of understanding that from the time we're young, and in a progressive enough way that it becomes part of who we are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and hence part of this program is to be able to get us to think about those things.
Yeah.
To be able to say, what can we do? Like, fundamentally, our self-loathing.
Well, yeah, I think it also comes with, we have to be given choices from the time we're little. That ones that sometimes set up so that we know the parent knows what you're going to choose, but let you choose it. Mm-hmm. you choose the right one. Although right one from a parent isn't always the right one.
Right.
My daughters, one of my daughters came to me in that phase of 7th or 8th grade where the kids were shaving the side of the head, the girls, and coloring a street green or whatever. And she came to me and she said, Mom, what would you do if I colored my hair green? I said, well, I'd probably laugh, but I'd let you do it. You would laugh? I said, yeah, you'd probably look ridiculous. But if you can live with how other people are going to treat you, then go ahead. And I said the same thing about shaving the hair. One of them did shave a little bit here. They decided that they had longer hair, and they shaved and the hair covered it unless they put it in a ponytail kind of thing. And I simply knew that hair is a wonderful way of self-expression and making choices and telling the truth to yourself ultimately of the consequences of your actions. And you can take the color out and you can grow the shave away. It's an easy way of changing your mind. But I let them make their own choices on it.
It was more based on the fact that I think about things very, very deeply. I try and get down to the absolute bottom line or the root of everything, which means that my analysis process goes past where most people normally stop their thinking, and even the deep thinkers tend to stop thinking past it to a certain point. And I even go further, and I try and go further and further. So the deep thought that's where that came from.
That's our show. I want to thank Therese Wilson, my absolute wonderful special guest, to come on and share her wisdom with us on this show. And I want everybody to come back on our next show. I'll see you then.